The morning sun was barely peeking over the horizon when a knock rattled my door, not just loud but with a rhythm that screamed entitlement, like the person on the other side wasn't asking for entry, they were claiming my entire ranch. I swung the door open, and there they were, the HOA board, standing shoulder to shoulder like a smug parade float, radiating self-righteous authority. At the center, of course, was Karen, her sunglasses perched arrogantly on her nose despite the shade of my porch, her clipboard tucked under her arm like a sheriff's badge. She cleared her throat, locked eyes with me, and announced, "We've had a meeting, and we unanimously agree your ranch is the perfect spot for my daughter's wedding." I stood there, half expecting a punchline, my coffee mug still warm in my hand. Instead, she shoved her laminated Pinterest board into my chest, sunflowers, mason jars, string lights, and some hipster cradling a chicken like it was his life's purpose. I blinked at the glossy images, then back at her. "No," I said, my voice flat as the Texas plains. She tilted her head, like I'd just spoken in some alien dialect. "No," I repeated, slower this time, letting the words sink in. She actually staggered, like I'd yanked the rug out from under her perfectly manicured feet. "But the board agrees," she stammered, "it's for the community. We'd pay you in exposure." I cut her off right there. Exposure doesn't build fences, Karen. My ranch, my rules. The answer's no. Behind her, a few board members shifted uncomfortably, one even muttering, "Maybe we should ask someone else." But Karen. She spun on her heel like a reality TV diva, snapping, "This is the spot. It's my daughter's special day." Then she leaned in, her voice dropping to that fake sweet tone that drips with venom, and whispered, "You'll regret this." I flashed a polite smile, shut the door, and took a sip of my coffee, but my gut was already twisting. I dealt with her kind before. Karen wasn't the type to let no be the final word. If you've ever tangled with an HOA, you know exactly what I mean. Check out more wild stories like this on my YouTube channel, MidnightTales, where we dive into the craziest neighbor dramas and small town showdowns. Sure enough, the games started almost immediately. First came a pie, still warm, left on my doorstep with a sticky note signed K. "Hoping you'll reconsider," it read, the cinnamon scent laced with the faint whiff of a veiled threat. I left it untouched. Then the neighbors got involved. Tom from 3 doors down cornered me in my driveway, scratching his neck as he mumbled, "Karen says you're being unreasonable about the wedding. Says it's for the community." I stared at him until he shuffled off, muttering to himself. Community? Since when did the HOA care about community? Last month, they fined me $50 for a decorative gnome by my mailbox, claiming it disrupted the aesthetic. Next came the landscapers, 3 guys with trimmers and a truck, rolling up to my gate, saying they were hired to beautify the space for a special event. I told them to turn around before they trimmed so much as a blade of grass. Across the street, Karen was on her porch, binoculars glinting in the sun. She ducked the second I spotted her, like a raccoon caught rummaging through trash. The final straw was almost comical. Karen showed up alone, knocking softly, wearing a flowing pastel dress like she was auditioning for Bridesmaid of the Year. Her voice was syrupy, all fake sincerity. "Listen," she cooed, "I know you're hesitant, but it's just one day. My daughter's heartbroken. This could bring people together, you know, healing." I looked her dead in the eye. "No means no, Karen. This conversation's over." She blinked, nodded once, and walked away without a word. That silence scared me more than any tantrum, because Karen didn't retreat unless she was plotting something bigger. Want to hear more about petty neighbor revenge and HOA horror stories? Subscribe to Midnight Tales on YouTube for weekly doses of drama and justice. 2 days later, I found out what bigger meant. It was a sunny Saturday, birds chirping, the kind of morning that makes you glad to be alive. I was driving back from town when I noticed my gate wide open, odd, since I always lock it. I figured maybe a delivery truck had slipped through, but as I pulled up the drive, my jaw hit the floor of my pickup. My ranch had been hijacked. White folding chairs lined my pasture in neat rows, like some picture-perfect wedding magazine spread. Fairy lights dangled from the trees I'd planted a decade ago, twinkling in broad daylight. A DJ was setting up under a gazebo that definitely wasn't mine, and caterers were arranging shrimp cocktails on tables I'd never seen before. I slammed the brakes so hard my truck skidded sideways, kicking up a cloud of gravel. Before I could storm out, two burly guys in matching polos blocked my path. "Sorry, sir, private event," one said, arms crossed. I laughed, loud and sharp. "Private. This is my land." They didn't budge. "We've been contracted by the HOA. Security clearance required." I shook my head, almost impressed by the audacity. "Buddy, I own the dirt you're standing on. There's no clearance higher than me." He clicked his walkie-talkie, and then she appeared, Karen, gliding through the crowd in a glittering floor-length gown that looked like it had lost a fight with a chandelier. She spread her arms wide, beaming. "Isn't it beautiful? Told you it'd be perfect." I saw red. "You broke in," I shouted, my voice echoing across the pasture. "This is trespassing. Are you out of your mind?" She gave a smug little shrug. "We tried diplomacy, but when the community wants something bad enough, sometimes you take initiative." Behind her, guests were clapping as the music kicked up, a flower girl scattering petals right across my vegetable patch, crushing my tomatoes under her tiny shoes. A minister was clearing his throat, ready to start the ceremony. That was it. I'd had enough. If Karen wanted to play dirty, I could get muddy. Love a good tale of standing your ground? Head over to MidnightTales on YouTube for more epic showdowns. I stormed to the barn, my blood boiling, and grabbed the industrial fire hose hanging on the wall, the kind with enough water pressure to strip paint off a tractor. I dragged it out, the weight heavy but satisfying in my hands, and stomped back toward the chaos. Twisting the valve, I unleashed the beast. The hose roared to life, hissing like an angry snake. The first spray hit the string quartet square on, sending violins and sheet music flying like startled birds. Guests shrieked, scrambling as their high heels sank into the mud. I swung the hose toward Karen, and the blast caught her full on, flattening her perfect hair and turning her makeup into rivers of black mascara. "Hey, Karen!" I yelled over the roar of the water. "Didn't know trespassing came with a free shower." She sputtered, screaming, "What is wrong with you?" I barked out a laugh. "What's wrong with me? What's wrong with you bringing a DJ booth onto my front lawn?" I aimed at the wedding arch next, watching it collapse in slow motion like a cheap prop in a bad play. The shrimp cocktail table exploded under the spray, launching shrimp across the lawn like pink confetti. Guests dove for cover, clinging to soaked dresses and ruined suits. Karen, drenched and furious, turned to her so-called security team. "Get him. He's insane." But the guys just stood there, dripping wet, one muttering, "Mom, technically, he's defending his property." Karen gasped like she'd been slapped. "You're all fired." The bride was sobbing, her veil plastered to her face, mascara streaking like she was starring in a tragic opera. The groom just stood there, eyes wide, like he was questioning every life choice that led him to this moment. I stood tall, hose in hand, grinning like a farmer who'd just watered justice itself. For more stories of epic revenge and standing up to bullies, check out Midnight Tales on YouTube. By the time the police rolled up, the scene looked like a war zone. Chairs were toppled, fairy lights dangled limply, and the gazebo leaned like it was drunk. But they didn't cuff me. Nope. I had everything on camera, security footage of Karen and her crew breaking in, hauling equipment, setting up like they owned the place. I handed the officers my deed, the footage, and a calm statement, while Karen, still soaked in her ruined gown, tried spinning a tale about community spirit. The cops weren't buying it. They laid it out plain: unlawful entry, trespassing, property damage, the works. Watching her sputter excuses, mascara dripping down her cheeks, was one of the most satisfying moments of my life. She'd tried to steal my ranch for her daughter's big day and got baptized in cold well water in front of her entire HOA board instead. The irony was almost poetic. Some might say I went too far, that I should have just called the cops and let them handle it quietly. But if you've ever been pushed around by an HOA, if you've ever had someone treat your property like it's theirs to control, you know there's a point where enough is enough. For me, that point was watching a flower girl crush my tomatoes. So, what do you think? Did I give Karen exactly what she deserved, or did I take it too far with the fire hose? Drop your thoughts in the comments on Midnight Tales over on YouTube, because one thing's for sure, on my ranch, no means no. Subscribe for more wild tales of justice and small town chaos.